Have you ever noticed how some people age gracefully, radiating peace, strength, and contentment, while others seem weighed down by illness and unhappiness? It's not just about luck or good genes. After 65, living a long and fulfilling life isn't just about drinking more water or walking every day. Sure, those things matter, but they're not the full picture. In fact, many older adults discover, often after getting sick, that the real foundation for longevity is built on something much deeper. Today, I want to share 5 powerful principles that truly blessed seniors follow. These are things we can all do, starting now, to improve our health, protect our peace of mind, and truly enjoy the later years of life. But before we dive into it, if you find this content meaningful, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more people discover these lessons. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you join our community. Now let's begin. Aging isn't something we can outrun. The truth is, the older we get, the more we face the reality that time is limited. But how we spend our remaining years, that's still very much in our control. And for many people, what changes everything is not a fancy diet or expensive pills. It's how we take care of these 5 aspects of our lives, especially after the age of 65. Let's start with one that's often overlooked, but incredibly powerful: getting good sleep. You see, as the body ages, it becomes more fragile. We no longer bounce back the way we used to. That's why it's crucial to conserve energy, and nothing does that better than deep, restorative sleep. 8 hours a night, consistently, can do wonders for your immune system, mood, and even memory. But it's not just the quantity. It's also about the quality of your sleep. Going to bed early, waking up early, keeping a steady routine, these little habits make a huge difference. I know some of you might say, but I've always been a night owl. And that might have worked in your 30s or 40s. But after 65, staying up too late regularly can disturb hormone production, throw off your internal clock, and leave you feeling exhausted even after a full night's rest. According to traditional health wisdom, the hours from 9 to 11 p.m. are when the body should begin winding down, and between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., deep healing occurs. So give yourself permission to rest. Your body and your spirit need it more than ever. Next, we move to something that's equally essential, though a bit harder to control: your mindset and temperament. Life has its ups and downs. We've all been through our fair share. And as we grow older, we might find ourselves dwelling more on the past or worrying too much about what lies ahead. But the truth is, every single day still holds potential for joy. What we carry in our minds has an enormous impact on what we carry in our bodies. Think about it. Being constantly upset, anxious, or irritable doesn't just wear you down emotionally. It weakens your immune system and makes you more vulnerable to illness. On the other hand, choosing to see the good in life, even in small things, can boost your overall well-being. I'm not saying you have to be cheerful all the time, but learning to let go, forgive easily, and laugh a little more, that can keep your heart young even when your knees aren't. Let me tell you about Ms. Judith, a woman I met through a senior wellness club. She's 72, a retired nurse, and lives alone in a modest apartment. Years ago, she lost her husband, and not long after, her only daughter moved abroad. For a while, Judith spiraled into grief and loneliness. She was barely eating, wasn't sleeping, and began developing high blood pressure. But slowly, she started changing the way she thought about her life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" she began asking, "What can I still do with the time I have left?" She started journaling, going on short walks, and even began learning Spanish through an app. Judith may not have a house full of people, but her heart is full. She says she now wakes up each morning with a sense of calm she never had before. And that brings us to the 3rd principle: your digestive health. Now I know, this might not sound very exciting, but hear me out. As you get older, your digestive system becomes more sensitive. Overeating, eating too fast, or eating unhealthy foods can easily lead to discomfort, bloating, or worse, chronic illness. Your gut plays a major role in absorbing nutrients and keeping your immune system strong. So it's not just about what you eat. It's how and when you eat that matters. For example, try eating 3 balanced meals at regular times and aim to feel about 80% full, not stuffed. Avoid ultra-processed snacks, too much sugar or salt, and steer clear of greasy or spicy foods that may upset your system. Instead, favor fresh vegetables, lean meats like fish and chicken, eggs, and a variety of legumes. These foods nourish your body without overwhelming it. Also, be mindful of food hygiene. Spoiled or moldy items can lead to serious issues in older adults. Keep it simple, light, and nourishing. There's a gentleman I met last year, Mr. Colin, 68, who used to love heavy dinners and a couple of glasses of wine every night. He thought his sluggishness the next morning was just getting old. But after his doctor advised him to cut back and switch to lighter evening meals, he started feeling years younger. Turns out, he said with a laugh, it wasn't age, it was indigestion. We've talked about sleep, mindset, and digestion, but now let's look at something you carry with you every moment of the day: your bones and joints. These quiet structures don't complain much when we're young, but once we hit 65, they start sending signals, sometimes loud ones. You may notice stiffness in the knees, back pain, or joints that crack more than you'd like. Osteoporosis, the weakening of bones, is incredibly common in older adults and can sneak up without warning. So what can you do? Well, keeping your calcium levels steady is key. This can come from diet, like dairy, leafy greens, and small fish with bones, or from supplements if needed. But don't stop there. Vitamin D is what helps your body actually absorb that calcium. And guess where you get it? The sun. Just 15 to 20 minutes of early morning sunlight on your skin can work wonders. Add in gentle weight-bearing exercises like walking or light yoga, and your bones will thank you. One woman in our wellness circle, Maria, age 70, told me she used to think breaking a bone was just something that happened in old age. But after her sister suffered a serious hip fracture, she decided to take action. She started going out every morning for a short walk in the sun, added sardines and spinach to her meals, and began taking a daily calcium and vitamin D supplement. She hasn't had any bone-related issues since, and she feels stronger and more stable than she did 5 years ago. And finally, the fifth and perhaps most transformative principle: investing in health with knowledge. You don't have to become a doctor to take care of yourself. But it's absolutely vital that you understand the basics of your body, the warning signs of common illnesses, and how to prevent small issues from turning into big problems. That means going for regular checkups, even if you feel fine. That means asking questions, reading labels, and understanding which medications you're taking and why. Health is not something to be stingy about. Spend wisely, yes, but don't hesitate to invest in the things that truly matter. Whether it's a health screening, a nutritious food item, or a new pair of supportive shoes. Prevention is always less painful and less expensive than treatment. I remember talking to Mr. Adrian, who's now 74. He shared how he used to skip doctor's appointments because, in his words, I didn't want to hear bad news. But when a neighbor caught a serious illness early through a routine screening, Adrian realized the value of being proactive. Now he never misses a checkup and has even helped convince 2 of his friends to get screened. Now those 5 principles: quality sleep, a positive attitude, good digestion, strong bones, and medical knowledge may sound simple, but together they form a powerful foundation for a vibrant life after 65. Still, even with good health, many older adults face something even more complicated than illness: family dynamics. And when those dynamics are tense, they can quietly drain your energy and peace. Let me share the story of Mrs. Evelyn, a 69-year-old widow. After her husband passed away, her children, worried about her being alone, insisted she rotate between their homes. At first, she was thrilled to have her grandchildren around every day and to be surrounded by the bustle of family life again. But slowly, cracks began to show. She found herself constantly clashing with her son's wife about how to manage the household. Small disagreements over dinner times or how the grandkids should be raised turned into larger arguments. The more she tried to help, the more it felt like she was interfering. Then came a particularly harsh disagreement. Evelyn had disciplined her grandson for staying up late, but her daughter-in-law stepped in and said, "He's our child. not yours. That moment stayed with Evelyn. Hurt and confused, she packed her bags and returned to her old home. It wasn't easy, but she realized she needed to stop inserting herself into her children's lives. As painful as it was, stepping back brought unexpected relief. A few months later, she came across a street interview online. A woman her age said, "I still care about my children deeply, but I don't interfere. I let them make their own choices. That's how they learn and grow." Those words hit home. Evelyn realized that just because you're a parent doesn't mean your children stay children forever. They have their own values, their own lives. And trying to guide or control everything only strains the relationship. Now, she lives independently, meets up with friends regularly, and has learned to love her peaceful routines. She says she and her children get along better than ever, not because they live together, but because they've created healthy boundaries. The arguments are gone, and so is the tension. The truth is, as we grow older, we often want to feel needed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes being needed doesn't mean being constantly involved. Sometimes it means being a steady presence from a distance, a person your children can rely on emotionally, not someone who watches over every detail of their daily life. This lesson applies just as much to raising grandchildren. Evelyn once admitted she made things harder for her son's family by treating the grandkids like her own children. She would spoil them with gifts and then scold them when they acted out, unintentionally contradicting the parenting rules of the household. She meant well, of course, but those good intentions created conflict. After she stepped back, things improved. Her son and daughter-in-law were grateful for the space, and the grandchildren started to visit her willingly, without tension. Evelyn smiled when she told me, "It turns out being the fun grandma from afar feels better than being the exhausted live-in nanny." And that brings us to a critical point that many people overlook. Living with family might seem like the safest and happiest option, but if your lifestyles and values don't align, it can feel more like a prison than a haven. After 65, what we need most is peace, not noise, not stress, not walking on eggshells. There's also the matter of emotional clutter, just like physical clutter. When your heart is constantly weighed down by resentment, frustration, or expectations of others, it's hard to enjoy anything. So much of aging, well, comes down to knowing when to let go. Let go of control. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of the idea that your way is the only way. I once met a man named Harold, who had lived with his son's family for a year before finally deciding to move back to his countryside cottage. He loved his family dearly, but said that every little difference, whether about money, habits, or even how loud the television was, eventually got under his skin. It wasn't their fault, he told me. We just live in different worlds now. Once he left and created a space of his own, he started gardening again, reading, and reconnecting with old friends. And with that independence came clarity. Now, you might be thinking, but what if I don't want to be alone? That's a valid concern. But being alone isn't the same as being lonely. In fact, many seniors who live independently say they feel freer, calmer, and more in control of their happiness. That's because they've learned how to fill their lives with meaning, even without constant company. When Evelyn moved back into her own home, her friends worried she'd get lonely. But she didn't sit around waiting for visitors. She joined a local book club and a walking group for older adults. Every week, they meet to share stories, laughter, and sometimes just silence over a cup of tea. These moments have brought her more joy than she expected. Her children still visit, on weekends or holidays, and now those visits are full of warmth and appreciation, rather than obligation or tension. And that brings us to a bigger realization. Peace in old age comes not from how many people surround you, but from how you feel inside. From knowing you've given your best to your family, and now it's time to give the same care to yourself. From recognizing that you still have a life to live, your own life, with your own pace and your own passions. You don't have to stop being a parent or grandparent, but you can stop being the manager of everyone else's business. Let your children face their own challenges. Let your grandchildren learn their own lessons. Be there with love, but not with control. Because when you finally focus on your own path again, you open the door to a whole new kind of happiness. Now let's continue with a story that might sound all too familiar. After her husband passed away, Mrs. Linda, now 66, decided to return to her hometown and live in the small house where she and her husband once raised their kids. Her friends warned her, "You'll be lonely without your children and grandchildren around." But Linda had come to realize something important. Being physically surrounded by people doesn't guarantee the emotional connection. Sometimes, living with family can actually make you feel lonelier, especially when your values, habits, or views start to clash. She tried living with her son and his family for a while. It was lively, yes. The grandchildren were noisy and energetic, and there was always something going on. But Linda found herself constantly at odds with the household routines. Her son and daughter-in-law stayed up late, ordered takeout regularly, and let the children run wild past bedtime. Linda, who preferred early mornings, simple meals, and a structured lifestyle, felt like a guest in her own family's home. One day, after a tense conversation about house rules, Linda decided to go home, not just physically, but emotionally. She stopped trying to adjust her rhythms to theirs and began creating a rhythm of her own. She planted vegetables in her small garden, took long walks through her neighborhood, and joined a local senior club where she found new friends who shared her values. And the most surprising part? Her relationship with her children improved. There were fewer conflicts, more appreciation, and a newfound respect between generations. Sometimes when we step away from constantly being there, we give our loved ones a chance to miss us, to value us, and to learn on their own. Linda told me, "Now when my children call or visit, it feels like a gift, not a duty." That simple change brought her a sense of peace she never thought possible during those chaotic months of living under the same roof. But there's something else Linda shared that really struck me. She said, "You know what I stopped doing after I turned 65? Comparing, gossiping, judging others. It only brings tension and sadness." It's a lesson many seniors have learned too late, that happiness doesn't come from analyzing everyone else's life. It comes from focusing on your own. This ties into the story of another gentleman, Mr. Raymond, who's now 70. After losing his wife, he moved in with his son in the city, hoping it would help fill the void in his life. At first, the warmth of family dinners and hearing laughter in the house again lifted his spirits. But as weeks turned into months, Raymond realized how drastically different their lives were. He liked things tidy, quiet, and frugal. His son's household was modern, noisy, and driven by convenience, ordering expensive food deliveries, staying glued to phones and screens, and rarely engaging in quiet conversation. Things finally reached a boiling point when his daughter-in-law accidentally broke an old ceramic vase that Raymond had cherished for decades. When he expressed his disappointment, his son brushed it off. "Dad, it's just a vase. We'll buy another." But for Raymond, it wasn't just about the object. It was about how out of place he felt in a world that didn't value what he did. That was the moment Raymond realized that no matter how much he loved his family, he had to learn to live with them differently, or not at all. After some time apart and a lot of soul-searching, he decided to return to his old neighborhood, reconnect with some old friends, and slowly carve out a life that felt authentic again. But he didn't stop there. He knew he couldn't just isolate himself and expect things to improve. So he decided to adapt, not by giving up who he was, but by meeting the world halfway. He got help learning how to use a smartphone, joined an online forum for seniors, and even began writing short stories based on his life experiences. These simple actions helped him stay mentally sharp, emotionally balanced, and socially connected. And perhaps the most touching thing he told me was this: "When I stopped making my children the center of my life, I became better at loving them." That's a powerful reminder that our later years aren't just for caretaking. They're for blooming in new, unexpected ways. See, growing old isn't a sentence. It's an invitation, a chance to reflect, to recalibrate, and to rediscover yourself. But to do that, you need space. Not necessarily physical space, but emotional space. Room to think, to breathe, and to be. And once you give yourself that space, you'll be amazed at what begins to grow in it. Raymond eventually found peace by accepting that his children lived differently, not wrongly. He stopped trying to change them, And instead of focusing on what annoyed him, he focused on what he could learn from them, from the world, and from himself. These stories of Linda Evelyn Raymond are not rare. In fact, they're quite common. They reveal a hidden truth that many seniors are discovering, that letting go, adapting gently, and focusing inward often brings far more joy than holding on, pushing hard, or demanding control. When you begin to accept your age, not as a burden, but as a stage of wisdom, you start to see things differently. You walk more slowly, but more mindfully. You speak more softly, but with deeper meaning. You love more freely, without conditions. And that, my friend, is a life truly blessed. As we move through this final part, I want to leave you with something deeper to reflect on. After 65, living well isn't just about avoiding illness. It's about living with intention. And that includes how we eat, how we think, how we move, and even how we spend. Let's talk about a remarkable woman I met named Mrs. Hilda. She's 65 and not wealthy by any means, but you'd never guess it by the peace she carries in her smile. Hilda wakes up each morning and tends to her small garden, where she grows vegetables and herbs. In the afternoon, she enjoys sitting by her window with a cup of warm tea, chatting with friends who pass by. Her life is simple, quiet, slow, unburdened. When I asked her what her secret was, she smiled and said, "I keep only what I need, and I let go of what I don't think worries even people." Hilda lives by a minimalist philosophy. Less is more, and it's changed her life. She avoids impulsive purchases, rarely buys anything she won't use regularly, and focuses instead on keeping her space clean, her schedule open, and her health a priority. Her meals are modest but nutritious. She doesn't chase expensive brands or buy supplements in shiny bottles that promise youth. Instead, she eats fresh produce, drinks water, and walks every day. And you know what? Hilda's medical bills are low. Her stress levels are even lower. And her happiness? That's something money can't buy. She reminded me that the goal after 65 isn't to impress anyone. It's to care for yourself with wisdom and love. That brings us to something we often overlook: food. In our later years, it's easy to fall into habits, eating too much salt, skipping meals, or choosing overly processed convenience foods. But our bodies are changing, and what used to be fine at 45 may now be a problem at 70. Start by choosing whole, simple ingredients. Vegetables, whole grains, fruits, nuts, fish, and moderate portions of lean meat can do more for you than any diet trend ever will. And remember, what matters is not how fancy a dish looks, but how nourishing it is. We don't need luxury to be healthy. We need balance. Eat slowly. Drink enough water, but not excessively, especially if you have kidney or heart issues. And when you eat, try not to multitask. Enjoy each bite. Treat meals as a sacred part of your day, not just fuel. Now, let's talk about relationships. At this age, you've likely built a long list of acquaintances, friends, colleagues, neighbors, relatives. But not all of them are still meant to walk with you. Some connections fade naturally. Others turn toxic. And some simply become draining. It's okay to let go. You don't have to make a dramatic exit or cut people off harshly. Just quietly shift your focus to the relationships that nourish you. Those built on mutual respect, warmth, and care. Prioritize the people who love you for who you are now, not who you were 30 years ago. Be polite to everyone, but don't feel guilty about protecting your peace. Your energy is limited and precious. Why waste it on people who leave you feeling small, tired, or used? Many seniors fall into traps, getting involved in gossip, becoming the emotional support for everyone, lending money to people who don't repay. And, in trying to help everyone else, they forget to help themselves. I say this gently, but firmly. Your time now is yours. Use it wisely. Let go of resentments. Forgive, not for them, but for your own heart. Learn to say no without guilt. And most importantly, surround yourself with people who bring light, not drama. Because happiness in old age isn't about quantity, it's about quality. Whether that's in your meals, your friendships, or your daily routines, what matters most is how it makes you feel. And speaking of feelings, pay close attention to your body. How you feel in the morning is one of the best indicators of your health. If you wake up tired, sluggish, or moody even after a full night's sleep, don't brush it off. That may be your body whispering that something is off. Men especially should take note of changes in urination patterns, swelling in the face or legs, or changes in energy. These could be early signs of kidney issues or heart problems. If your face looks dull, your feet are swollen, or your morning energy is gone, it's time to check in with your doctor. Never ignore your body's signals. Prevention is always better than a cure. And in many cases, early action can add years to your life, or at least make those years healthier and more comfortable. One gentleman I spoke with, Mr. Glenn, now 72, used to wake up every morning feeling weak and cloudy-headed. His family thought it was just normal aging, but Glenn decided to get a full health screening, and it turned out he had early-stage kidney issues. With some diet changes, medication, and a new routine, he turned things around before it got serious. Now he's more active than he was at 65. There's also the story of Mr. Tan, who in his 60s exercised daily and drank plenty of water. But when he hit 70, things changed. He found that too much water made him run to the bathroom at night, disturbing his sleep. His knees couldn't handle long walks like before. His daughter kept urging him to stick to his old routine, but Mr. Tan wisely adjusted. He reduced his exercise to gentle stretches and short strolls, drank water in moderation, and learned to listen to his aging body. That's the real secret. Adapt. Don't force yourself to follow rules that no longer fit your condition. What worked at 50 may not work at 70. Aging is not about copying the past. It's about customizing your life to suit your present reality. And let's not forget the habits that science says can extend our lives. Research has shown that seniors who consume adequate protein, around 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, preserve muscle better and stay more mobile. This means fewer falls, less weakness, and more independence. Simple proteins like eggs, lentils, tofu, fish, and chicken can do wonders. Add in moderate exercise. No marathons needed, just movement you can maintain. Studies show that seniors who move regularly reduce their risk of early death by up to 40%. It improves blood pressure, reduces the risk of dementia, and keeps bones strong. Here's a fun one: dark chocolate. Yes, you heard that right. Dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa, eaten in small amounts, has been linked to better sleep, improved circulation, and even better memory in older adults. Plus, it lifts your mood by encouraging your brain to release happy hormones. And finally, don't forget vitamin D. Whether through sunlight, food like salmon and eggs, or supplements, this sunshine vitamin helps prevent bone loss, boosts immunity, and has even been linked to better mental health. Above all else, keep your brain active. Read, write, solve puzzles, learn new things. The more you use your mind, the longer it stays sharp. Combine that with strong social bonds, friends, neighbors, clubs, and you've got the recipe for a rich and meaningful life. Because here's the truth: happiness after 65 isn't just possible, it's common. Studies have shown that happiness often peaks between the ages of 65 and 70. Why? Because the worries of career, raising children, and proving yourself fade away. What remains is peace, wisdom, and the ability to enjoy life's little things: a sunny day, a good conversation, a warm meal, a memory. So if you're in your 60s or beyond, know this: you still have time. Time to improve your health, to shape your days, to find new joy, and to live on your own terms. A long life is a blessing, but only if you know how to live it well. And you do. Thank you for watching and spending this time with me. If you found this video helpful, please leave a comment below and let us know which of these lessons resonated with you the most. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring content for the golden years. Until next time, take care of yourself and live every day with meaning.